All right, so I wanted to get everybody set up with using the Bambu Slicer program to export these current projects. So I've got my melancholy Kool-Aid planter, and I want to show you how going through the difference between going through like a much more complex vessel and a slightly less complex vessel. Now, if you haven't already, make sure to set up Bambu, and we can go through the settings again, but essentially we are only using the Bambu Carbon 1 or the Bambu X1 Carbon. That's what they have in the makerspace. And we have Prusa Mark III. They only have two options, and that's one of them. The other option is a mini, so it's very obvious which one. And we're only using generic PLA and generic PETG. Yes, there are other filaments, but those are the ones we're using to keep it simple. So, focusing here on Fusion. What we're going to be doing to export our parts out of Fusion. Save what you got. Always do that. But essentially, built into Fusion, yes, you can generate stuff, but when it says export to 3D print, it just kicks it out to the printer. So it's not like it's actually like an in-program slicer. It's all right. So we'll start with the with Melancholy Man. I got to work on my pun for that one. Anyway, first thing you should do with any of this, make sure to title the actual body, not necessarily just the project, but let's open up the project body, the folder here, body, Mellowaid. You do whatever the heck you want. Basically, just so it's easier to find your file when you export it, because we're going to export it just into whatever. All right. So select the body. I don't need to select the whole project because that's going to include things like sketches and any other information. I'm going to open up the project tree, bodies, just select that. Now, when I go to open the file, not export, although that's essentially the same thing, but I'm going to 3D print. This just streamlines it a little bit. So I go to the 3D print option. The tool pop up. I don't want to take it to manufacturing. That's what if I was going to be generating like tool paths for like machining this out of a material. We just want to go to, now you can go to 3D print utility, but we're just going to go to export. Now, we haven't talked about this too much yet, but for now, we are just going to leave it at the standard file format as an STL. That is the now 40-year-old file format. That's the plain basics. You can change these. The only other one you really need to bother with is the 3MF. That is the new, more universal one. We will play with those later, but for now, let's keep it simple and just output as an STL. Oops. The binary, super duper, just the default one. All the other ones you can leave. You don't have to touch anything else. Hit OK, and it's going to tell you where it's putting it. On my computer, it's going to the downloads folder. Neat. That's it. Now, if you are exporting multiple things, so like the body, the basket, and the drip tray, I'm going to relabel this as well. Do not select them both because it will export it as a single object. You want them separate so you can mix and match as you need. So if I'm exporting my basket and tray, I'm going to do them separately. So I'm going to select the basket tray, 3D print, as it is. There we go. Select basket, 3D print, as it is. Okay. Great. So now I'm going to jump over to Bambu Slicer. So you have the drop-down options. If you're taking it to the makerspace, they have the Bambu Labs X1 Carbon. We have the Prusa Mark IIIS in here. just so you're aware, the default setting is they have a texture plate on that one. They have removable plates that you can put on. The default is textured ones. They have the textured ones over there, so you should leave it as that. So the Prusa, it's not giving me the option, but we also have the smooth plate, so no worries. We're good there. All right. Here's where you check whether or not you want your generic PLA or PETG. It is important to know what you're going to use first. Not because in this case, like the strengths and material properties or anything like that, but in this case would be like, because I want that color and we only have it in PLA or PETG. And the important differentiation there is they melt and print at different temperatures and speeds. And the slicer will prepare the project as such. So check what you want first. Doesn't matter the color or anything, but if you want either PLA, because I have that one color in PLA, or you do specifically want PETG, you're just not sure what color yet, then make sure to select PETG. That's the difference there. So a lot of stuff we have, let's say I want to print this. I know I have some translucent colors in PETG. Cool. Now to import stuff, obviously you can go to File and Import, New Project, or you can just literally open up your Downloads folder and drag and drop it in. Same diff. So with this one, we're going to start with the simple one, my Kool-Aid Man. Drag and drop, and you can see as a relative shape, that 100 by 100 millimeters suddenly gets real big because that is a virtual one-to-one scale environment of that print shot, of that print plate. So it's actually quite large. And again, you can always make it smaller, things like that. We're going to use the default settings for now. The layer height is 2 millimeters. Initial late 2 mil or 0.2 rather. Those are the same. We can play with the align seams. That's all fine. Frankly, we're just going to use the default settings for now. I just want to get y'all started with stuff. Now, a couple of things. This should default to being on the flat on the bottom. If it does not, so let's say like if it were rotated or you had it like it came in something like that, no problem. Select the object, and we can select the lay on face. When you click that, it's going to give you several highlighted places. I want the bottom. Pops it flat down on the bottom on the print bed as it is. You don't have to kind of like ever so slightly. Hopefully it's actually flat on the bottom. That's what you want. Okay. So let me just expand or blow this up so we can see what we're doing a little better. So ideally here, we would go to just, all right, I shouldn't have to do anything else. It's flat smack in the middle. We're good. Slice plate. What that means, the plate refers to the entire print bed. That's your plate. So I'm going to slice it. Now, it's telling me I have some errors. I'm not seeing the errors or anything. Seams, that's just where the print just kind of, the head just kind of goes back and forth or where it meets. That's all fine. It's giving me all these weird lines because it's actually giving me a representation of these sliced layers as it stacks layer by layer. Now, depending on your model and like how far things jut out or anything like that, you will probably have to add supports. Now, ideally, what we want to do with this project is design to where we have minimize the supports needed. So like if I have these protrusions, my embosses, well, see these yellow area or these white areas? Apparently I'm having difficulty with colors. It can't print in negative space. Remember that projection? This emboss, it goes in all directions. So if it's kind of pointing downward, I've created an overhang. Meaning that I've got my vessel, and if the emboss is going downward and outward, and layer by layer, it's going across, that little point is hanging out. So I will have to either A, add supports, or B, go back and adjust my print. I can add supports here by, let's go back over to prepare. I can go to the support tab and just enable supports. Now when I go to slice plate, give it a moment, it's going to have to generate scaffolding around that, and there we go. So that's honestly not that bad. I forgot to check what the print time before was, so that's a 4-hour print. What's that? Sorry, prepare time. It was preparing for 4 minutes. It's printing for 10 hours. That's why we're making them not that big. There we go. Okay, my bad. I saw the wrong thing. I'm still getting used to Bambu. So if I uncheck that, I just want to check the timing real quick. Yes.
On things like this, these are creating spirals out on them.
Yep. Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with. That's not one I've played with. What's that?
In strength, if you do the top and bottom surface, that you drop a lot of time on like
Okay. Well, that's definitely one of the things we're infill and stuff. Is definitely one of the things we're going to play with. Now, I will note this is on the Prusa printers. This is an older model. So, okay, if I didn't have to have supports, that would actually shave an hour off my print time. We can play around with other things like in here, what's called infill is essentially you have your walls of your print, and it can't just print hollow. It can in some cases, but there's going to be some sort of mesh or weave or something inside, and there's different types of patterns. We can play with those. The default is rectilinear. One of the general faster ones is oh, that's solid infill. That's a weird one. Is gyroid. That one tends to be faster. That's like the design default. Instead of making individual cells or anything, the whole point is it's a flowing loop de loop de loop. That actually did drop some more time off that, so that's always good.
that's the one that looks like tree roots.
No, this one, the gyroid pattern is essentially a curvature that then twists as it goes up. So it creates an interlocking mesh. So you said about the Archimedean chords. I don't usually use that, so I'm interested to see how Bambu works with that. Dropped it a little bit more. Okay, cool. That's a new one. I don't usually use that one. So that is, it's not quite concentric. It's drawing inward and inward and inward. So playing with the different settings can certainly help. But just for reference, I do want to try showing you the difference between like how much faster the Bambu printer is. So I haven't changed. So luckily, what's really cool is it will keep most of your patterns if it can, or out your settings, switching between different printers. So let's try slicing on that one. Yeah, I'll reset the settings there. Holy crap! So the same print. So the same print on Bambu, 3 hours. That's how much faster the newer printers are. It's insane. And that is essentially the same kind of hardware. It's just the new software allows for significantly faster prints. So we have the printers in here. We can most certainly use them, but this is why I highly recommend making use of the makerspace. It cuts your print time massively. I'm going to bring it. I'm going to be bringing the rest of our more of our filaments over, so we have some more selection. They're just going to be PLA, but I've got a whole bunch of different colors for it, so we've got that. So anyway, what we have in the room, however, is the slower, older Prusa. So fine, we'll use that. And I'm going to have to use supports in this case because of the overhangs. So got all those same settings, blah, 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 blah. We'll keep using this for now. And my 8-hour print. Yes.
We had to individually print.
Ideally, you can print them both at the same time, but it depends on how big they are. So let me get to that in a second. So with this, once it's all set, now it's, I do realize I do need supports on this because of the overhangs. So let me reslice that with supports and add another hour onto this. Yeah, it's really not that bad.
Good.
So actually, with those adjustments, with the Archimedean spiral and the gyroid infill, it actually still cuts some time off, but still fairly slow. Once it's all set, you've got your selection. You'll go to print, and we're going to export the G code because where the Bambu printers are networked, and you can also put it onto a flash drive. You're good. These do not have any internal memory of their own, so we have these little SD cards. And what I've done is I've printed some little tags on there just so they're slightly less or slightly harder to lose. Still pretty easy to lose, but these go in. So this gets exported onto there. Export G code. That gets saved on the printer. Now, one of the things I want you to note, it's going to tell you what the material is in the file name and how long it's going to take. So at least you also have the reminder. So like, I don't know what I want to print this in. I can make one in PETG and then go change the settings over to PLA, slice it, prep another one, and that way I have both of them. So if I decide mid-print, or not mid-print, if I decide later, I want to make one and two different things, there you go. You can do that. So it's not that big a deal. Yes.
How come straight border island
Sorry?
on the sidebar? How come straight to end support for island?
I'm not sure.
You've made changes.
I've made changes, and apparently that's why. Again, I am still learning Bambu, so that's that. But what I am learning is that I think Bambu is a bit more accessible. I'm actually quite pleased with a lot of the options, whereas the PRUSA, you kind of have to dig for the settings, and they're right here. Plus, they have a little graphic example of like the infill patterns and things like that. So, frankly, I think I quite like the Bambu. I'm just learning it still. All right, so we've got those set. Great. Put it in our flash drive. We prep the printers, preheat it, get everything set, get it going. One of the main things with printing, and we will go through printing hopefully, well, we'll see. In here at least, it's important to stay for at least the bulk of the first layer. That's the most important layer. If it breaks off, it starts to peel, anything like that, that's where you're going to have most of your problems. Not all, most of your problems. Now I want to show you real quick. That's all well and good, but what if about printing our other stuff? So let's drag and drop the basket and the tray. Now, one, you got to make sure that these are aligned or that you have enough space. So we'll go up to the auto things, auto arrange. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, auto arrange. And okay, yeah, arrange. Now, honestly, when things like this, I prefer to print them separately because, especially if I have a real simple thing and a much taller, complex thing, if one fails, I don't lose both. It takes a little bit longer, but honestly, I prefer to print them separately. Plus, that way, if you want, you can. Yes, it takes up more printers or twice as long, but you can have different colors, things like that. Then again, at the makerspace, they do have multi-material ones. We will get into how we can use that stuff later, hopefully.
They're going to recommend doing.
Yes, individual prints usually are the way to go, unless you get to babysit it. Like if you're printing at home, yeah, more power to you. I personally prefer to print these separately. Especially because depending on what the thing is, maybe the tray I can get away with not having supports, but that basket probably going to need it. Then again, the way I made this with points, with triangular shapes, I might not have to actually have supports except for at the very top. Whoops, I didn't mean to click and drag that. The very top, because it's spanning across, yeah, I'm probably going to need supports for that. So if I can go back and change that, I could probably actually get away with no supports at all on that basket. But otherwise, it's the same thing. Setting up, probably need supports, slice plate. Da, 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 da. Syncretizing. I'll pause for a moment. Oh, never mind. So yeah, that's obviously a problematic print because we could probably make some adjustments and not have an entire giant block of scaffolding needed, of supports needed. So I would definitely recommend a rework for this. So if I was to rework some of this stuff, what I would probably do is if I go back into my program, let's just show you real quick. So the simple one would be something like this. I would go in and either add some chamfers or fillets, probably fillets, to all of the especially surfaces here, which again, instead of doing all of them individually, it makes far more sense to go back before I made the circle pattern and adjust one, and then it'll take over. So I'm going to get away with a single, one, something to that effect. Maybe I can do 1.5. Okay. That's definitely better. And now when I, oh, poopy, it did. Oh, right. We got to go adjust that for the whole thing. This is probably where a lot of my errors are going to show up. So go back in, make your adjustments. If I have to do it by faces again instead and do all that blah, blah, blahs. But you make those adjustments, should be okay. Making that adjustment, just changing your print a little bit, changing your design to reduce the amount of fillets necessary, that would be a great way to reduce waste. For this one, yeah. Well, honestly, we could probably get away with not having to print supports for that tray at all. That's probably okay. However, my basket here, yeah, obviously that's a bit problematic. I would say probably something along the lines of if I didn't have this circle quite as wide, or if I turned it more angular, I might be able to get away with not having or not needing supports for that. It's a little difficult, but honestly, a design like this, if I had those sides come all the way to a point or so, I would probably be better off. But that's going to take a little more playing with, and I'd recommend doing exactly that. Play around with it, but maybe you'd be able to do it beforehand. So I'm curious what will happen. Oops, let's join all those together, and I'm curious what will happen if I print this without that top ring. Basket, no ring. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, we go back over to Bambu. I'm just going to delete these real quick. Still getting used to this. And take off supports. Because everything is angular, the supports just kind of the supports get built in. It looks like I could successfully actually print this without supports. Pretty okay. Be worth trying, considering that the difference between a 17-hour print and a 7-hour print on the PRUSA, or the super fast fancy printers, three hours. Pretty darn good. What's it?
I just two other options too for the,
Please.
that you could go in and use, you go to your supports, use pre-supports.
Yes.
But there's also on Bambu, if you went to the slicer again. And then you see, it's like after the TA. Okay, directly after the TA, you were to highlight, you go to that for painting your,
Oh, yes. I haven't experimented with paintable stuff yet. So
yeah, it's just, it's, if you support, you can draw a line around that lower part of the ring.
Mhm.
And it'll just support that.
only support that. Yep. Yeah, I haven't experimented with that yet, so I can't. So I wasn't confident in really going about that. But yes, you can make customizable prints. The one other one is, like he was talking about, there are other options. The newer version is tree prints, which instead of the default just back and forth grid pattern, it will actually create more flowing organic prints or supports only in the spots that it really needs. It uses far less and makes some pretty cool patterns. The Prusa can do it too, but again, this is just a Bambu. It's faster, much faster. But those are the other options. On on Prusa, you can make supports. You just go to the type and tree. So same deal. But it looks like without that ring, I won't need the supports at all. But if you do need the ring, tree supports usually will get you there a lot faster. So, pardon me. So the option there, still, you do have to, for Prusa, you still have to export it to an SD card. and those get plugged in, a little more manual stuffs. With the Bambu, whether they're networked or they use a flash drive, same deal. I forget if Bambu has an onboard storage, but the SD card stays in the PRUSA printer while it's printing. This is a storage. There is no onboard storage for it. So, all right. And again, tree supports 9-hour print. So it's still going to be a lot slower than the Bambu, but that's what we have. So we'll be working with that next time. And we'll go from there. But hopefully that clues you in on how the Bambu slicer works, how you set stuff up. I would highly recommend dividing up your prints, tray and pot separately. But in this case, if I'm just doing the basket, the tray, there you go. But I highly recommend doing them separately. It's not so much it'll take less time. It'll essentially take the same amount of time. But should something fail, you at least have one full print and then the other one. And sometimes something fails mid print or just stops. And sometimes you can just print that extra part and glue them together. So just because something fails, as long as it's not like a catastrophic failure where something breaks apart or you end up accidentally printing like a giant bird nest instead of an actual object, sometimes it's still salvageable. So either way, you're all set here. You go to print export G code, pop it onto your storage device, be it SD or flash drive, and you take it to your appropriate printer, get it set up, and away you go. And hopefully you got a super cool object that you printed. So there we go.